My Filipino friends, are you familiar with the song?
Yeah.
How about you, son? No? Generational gap, no? My friends over here is joining along with the song. Are you familiar, sir? Of course, no?
I know.
Of course. So that was a novelty song about the arrival of the Spaniards here in the Philippines back in 1521. Not really related to the history of Manila, you know, because that happened in the central part of the Philippines, which is in Cebu. You know, first time here in the Philippines. Can I see the hands? First time in the Philippines. There you go. Welcome to the Philippines. The Philippines is 7,641 islands in total. And we're currently here in the biggest island we call Luzon. We're particularly in this area. So you still have 7,640 more reasons to explore the Philippines, no? So that song is about the arrival of Ferdinand Magellan. He arrived in the central part of the Philippines, and with a local battle between the chieftain called Lapu-Lapu, he was killed in that battle. And with that battle, one ship survived and it went back to Spain, the ship Victoria. And that marks the first circumnavigation of the world. So the ship Victoria brought with them some small crate full of local cinnamon. And whether you believe it or not, that small crate full of local cinnamon was able to pay off the entire trip. 5 ships, more than 300 sailors, and a small profit. That is how expensive the spices were back then. So the King of Spain said, what the hell, I want more of those spices. So they sent a lot of expeditions. Some were successful and some were not. But the most iconic, notable expeditions were the expedition of Villalobos. He arrived in the southern part of the Philippines and he claimed the entire island as the island that belongs to King Philip. That's why we were called Las Islas de Filipinas, the islands of King Philip. When the Americans arrived here, they changed it into a more English name, and we were called Philippine Islands. And they would abbreviate it as PI. And my Filipino friends are laughing, you know, because do you know what PI means here in the Philippines? Yeah, tell it, girl. Putang ina. Motherfucker. So you can imagine for 40 years the Americans are calling us motherfuckers. So they would buy beautiful postcards, send them to their loved ones back at home. Love lots. It's beautiful here. Love lots from Manila, PI. Motherfuckers. So currently we don't call ourselves motherfuckers anymore. We are RP, Republic of the Philippines, or PH, Philippines, not PIs. We're not PIs anymore. But the most notable expedition was the expedition of Miguel Lopez de Legazpi. He arrived still in the central part of the Philippines, and he stayed there for like 5 years. And within that 5 years, he finally realized that there's no spices here in the Philippines. The Spice Island is in Molucas, currently Indonesia. And so they looked for a different source of income, and they learned that around this area was a major trading spot for Chinese traders. And so they slowly crawled up and they settled in the kingdom called Maynila. Maynila, by the way, was derived from 2 words. May, meaning there is, and nilad, a mangrove tree. You know, at the back of these walls over here is already the Pasig River. You will see the Pasig River later. And during those times, this is a swampy area full of this kind of mangrove trees. So back then, you don't have names and you don't have a specific name of that place. So if people would ask, where do you live? People would answer, dun sa Maynilad. There in those mangrove trees. The Spaniards cannot pronounce the Y. And so they dropped the Y, they dropped the D, and we became Manila. They were here. Manila. And that's the kingdom of Manila. So they first settled in here. They talked with the local chieftains as well, but again, with some misunderstanding, they had a battle, and the natives who were living here before was forced to look for a new town. Again, Filipino friends, new in Tagalog is bago, and town is bayan. And thus Bagong Bayan was born. Where is Bagong Bayan? Luneta. So Luneta Park, the national park of the Philippines, located less than a kilometer away from here. Have you been to Luneta Park? Rizal Park? Probably you passed by Rizal Park going here, no? That area was the national park of the Philippines, and it is called Bagong Bayan before. Literally means new town. Here is the old town. No? So they stayed in here, they stayed in there, and the territory that was natives territory in here, they created this fortification named after Santiago, Saint James. You can see him right there in that wooden carved on top. That is Santiago or Saint James, the patron saint of Spain during those times. And you know, when Miguel Lopez de Legazpi settled in here, he found out one thing, that the natives were Muslims. Said to himself, punyeta, Muslims again. Because remember, he was from Europe, and it was the 1500s. No? And the 1500s was just the end of the medieval period. And the medieval period was full of Christians and Muslims fighting. So you can imagine Miguel Lopez de Legazpi, when the King of Spain said, "You look for the islands of the Philippines," probably he said, "Goodbye beaches, I'm now going to a more peaceful land, away from Christians and Muslims fighting at home." And he traveled half across the globe and found himself fighting Muslims again. Holy shit. That's why he named this place as Fort Santiago, named after Saint James, the patron saint of Spain. You know what Santiago's full name back in Spain? Santiago de Matamoros. Saint James, the slayer of the Moros, the killer of the Muslims, Matamoros. Politically incorrect term of today, no? But let me remind you, this was named during the medieval period, okay? So you can imagine that this was just created more than just a fortification. Now this is like a warning sign to the natives to never to stay in your Bagong Bayan, your new town, because now you have a new management in town. And if ever you try to come back here, Santiago is with us, and we will help you. And thus by June 24, a week from now, the kingdom of Maynila was ceased to exist, and a new Spanish kingdom of Manila was born. That's why now the foundation day of Manila is June 24. And that traces back in 1571. So that's the history behind this Fort Santiago. Fort Santiago is one of the most iconic areas here in Intramuros. So if you want to take your pictures, you can have your pictures in here, and then we will go inside Fort Santiago finally. Okay, any questions? All good? Yeah, let's go.